requires hardly any introduction at all. Huda Ammori is speaking to us next. And you'll all know Huda as an activist and campaigner targeting British complicity with Israeli apartheid and genocide. And we're really pleased you can be with us tonight, Huda. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for organising this event. So I'm sure everyone is aware of the current situation with Palestine Action, but just to give some context, Palestine Action started in July 2020 with the aim of taking direct action against the Israeli weapons industry in Britain, specifically against Elbit Systems, Israel's biggest weapons firm. And from action to action, we continue to grow with more people joining and shutting down Elbit's weapons factories across the country. And with this came a lot of victories, and we managed to, in those 5 years, permanently shut down 3 Israeli weapons sites in Britain and force over a dozen companies to cut ties with Elbit. And Elbit lost contracts worth billions of pounds during that time. I think it's safe to say that we annoyed a lot of powerful people during the past 5 years, and I guess as well, it shows the effectiveness of the campaign to see what strong reaction we garnered from the state. But it's quite important to note those people that we annoyed, because as well as the Elbit Systems, the Israeli weapons industry, people in Palestine Action also targeted Teledyne, a US weapons manufacturer who make parts for missiles in Bradford and send them over to Israel. And we know that so-called Lord Richard Dannett was paid by Teledyne, and he also called for the prescription of Palestine Action. And Elbit Systems and the Israeli government over the years had constant meetings with government ministers, with very senior police officers, counter-terrorism officers, and people in the CPS and the Attorney General's office, constantly discussing how to crack down on Palestine Action. And at first, this started with making it harder for us to have defences in court when we argued that our actions were not criminal, because we were acting to prevent the much greater crime and to stop weapons being made which would be used to massacre people in Palestine. When that failed to work and failed to stop us from taking action, they increased the number of raids, and then they started to remand more people in prison before trial. Then they started to use counter-terrorism powers, locking up the Filton, now the Filton 24, under counter-terrorism powers. And then when that didn't work, they resorted to prescription. And they have done an absolutely, what they call unprecedented move against all of our civil liberties in order to protect the Israeli weapons industry at a time when it is committing genocide in Gaza. And I think it's important to note that there are 29 prisoners, 24 of which are the Filton prisoners, 5 of which are connected to the Bryce Norton action. I know that's been mentioned before, but it's important to note that it is not a first for people to break onto British military bases and intervene with military aircraft, which would be used in wars. It was done during the Iraq War, and even before that against nuclear weapons. It's nothing new. The only difference this time is that it was done for Palestine, and it's the first time that they called it terrorism. 5 people are now in prison for that action, accused of terrorism for that. And not with Palestine Action, but another group took action against a weapons factory in Wolverhampton, and 4 of them have now been remanded to prison, not under counter-terrorism. But I think it's very important to note that all of the prisoners, 33 people in prison, 33 people in this country are in prison for taking action against genocide. All of them, every single one of them, has not gone to trial. Some of them face up to 2 years before they even go to trial. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that actually when people go to trial, often people are acquitted, or they're not sentenced to prison. So they've resorted to punishing people before they can even be proven innocent or guilty in the eyes of the state. But this prescription has been a complete attack on not just Palestine Action, but across the whole movement. We've all seen people being arrested for, Plasticine Action t-shirts. I think that's my favourite one so far. The private eye jokes, and these ridiculous things, being stopped for having a Palestine flag and harassed by the police. But also, it has been incredible to see hundreds of people, and probably thousands to come, getting out there in the streets, holding placards and opposing the prescription, defying the law, in order to stand up for what is right, because this is completely unprecedented. And if we allow this to happen, then it's already so bad that if we don't fight back now, I can't even imagine how much worse it could get. I saw an action by a complete separate group that's been going for over a year against a right-wing think tank, Policy Exchange, very, very dodgy people there. And they just threw red paint, and yes, they smashed a window. And we have lords, members of the House of Lords and MPs saying that is an act of terrorism. It's just become completely insane, where they're completely demeaning what the legality and the legal threshold of what it means to commit terrorism, and basically any effective opposition to the status quo, to the British state's involvement in genocide, they are now trying to classify as terrorism. And that is a sign of a very authoritarian state, of a police state completely. But at the same time, seeing how many people are coming out, I don't think Yvette Cooper, I know she didn't, because I've seen the documents. She did not expect this to happen. They did not expect such a strong backlash. And it is going to make this, the people resisting this and fighting back against this is going to make this completely unworkable. And it's only through mass resistance that we can get them to backtrack on this. There is the judicial review, but I do believe it's going to be massively reliant on the political campaign to fight against this prescription. And, we just have to remember that as this is happening, as they try and stop a group from shutting down Israeli weapons factories, these weapons are being used to massacre more and more people every single day in Palestine. And that is the urgency here. Those factories have got to be shut down. It's completely degrading to the Palestinian people to say that the people who are trying to stop those weapons being made are the terrorists, not the ones committing it. But I do believe that we will win. It's just a matter of time, and we've just got to, work together against this fascism and pushback.
Thank you, Huda, for an excellent presentation. The voice of Palestine Action will not be silenced. I want to tell you that a group called Palestine Action in Vienna has acted in exactly the same fashion that Huda and her friends have taught us is possible, justified, and necessary. And they were not arrested. They were not charged with anything. They gave many interviews. This is Vienna, where Zionism has once started, and also where Hitler comes from. So it's possible to speak openly against the crimes and against arming the crimes in Europe, but it's not possible in this country where the Zionist project was first supported 110 years ago.